Run It Studios is the home of the Run Radio podcast and runradio.net, a podcast and station about the relentless, resilient, and innovative types, inspiring strides in life, business, and beyond. Welcome back to the Run It Studios Run Radio podcast. My name's Trina Wilcox, and my guest today knows a thing or two about running things when it comes to writing a book, fitness plans, and more. And we are glad to welcome David Amerland, author of Built to Last. Welcome to the podcast.
Trina, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I'm really excited, obviously, and I'm really eager to see how the conversation is going to sort of develop.
Me too. I was diving into your website, your bio, and you're very passionate about building a fitness lifestyle, not just a quick plan to drop a few pounds and be done, but something that you can work into your life and continue it. And that's something I've always been passionate about as well, is having a healthy lifestyle, doing things that are customized to the way you live and your abilities. So tell me a little bit about how it evolved for you and where it all started.
Well, I'm probably one of the worst people to use as an example. I started my fitness journey when I was 13, and I've been doing martial arts in very different styles. I've got a couple of black belts in different styles. I've done competitive martial arts for 10 years. And I'm sort of 61 now, and I kind of have always trained. So, and the reason I've done this, and it sounds very sort of disciplined, it's not, I can tell you that. People who engage in this kind of active lifestyle use it as a coping mechanism, which is what I did. So it allowed me essentially to deal with the stresses in my life and work out the noise in my head, and kind of, as I was growing up, work out the who of who I was and what I wanted to become. And for me, that was the outlet. Other people choose other things. They may choose perhaps some kind of music as an expression, or dance, or some people smoke and some people drink. It's different things. But essentially, that's what it was. But so when it came to fitness, for a long part of my life, I didn't get why people couldn't exercise. I didn't understand why for them it was so difficult. Because for me it was easy. And not only was it easy, but as I started competing, obviously I had a structure around me from coaches and teammates and sports doctors. And at some point we actually had sports psychologists who were helping us develop ourselves in that particular thing. So I had a blind spot, and that blind spot sort of started coming to sort of in perspective for me around pandemic time, when I sort of found myself training on my own, and then training with a friend, and we started discussing things. And then I realized that there's a whole lot of difficulty people face to which I wasn't aware of, and that really piqued my interest. That's when I went digging, because obviously people want to exercise. Everybody wants to be fit. Logically, 100% people will tell you they want to do the right thing. Come Christmas, we all try to do the right thing for the new year.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't work. So that became the trigger for me, if you like.
So when you recognize this, what were the things that you were seeing that they were struggling with?
Okay, I've got a varied background when it comes to my own training. I'm a chemical engineer with a quantum mechanics specialization. And then I've sort of worked across the field in sort of the relatively technical stuff in mathematics and search and marketing and business. And in all those things, essentially, the unifying thread always is us, our sort of psychological makeup, the triggers that allow us to behave or make us behave in particular ways in certain contexts. And that's the thread I started to pick at in order to unravel the mystery of why we don't exercise. And here's what happens. I mean, it's not simple, obviously, because if it was, we'd all have solved it by now. At the same time, it's not as complicated as people make it out to be. So hopefully we'll unravel a lot of these things as we go into the conversation, but I'll start with the simple ones first. What we call exercise today, in a formal sense, which has a structure and some kind of plan usually, and perhaps a place where you go to, somebody who oversees it or presents it, is a substitution for the lifestyle we had 100 years ago,
Okay.
200 years ago, 10,000 years ago. Now, in those times, our everyday life was physical. You'd have to walk some distance, you'd have to lift some things, you'd have to dig for some things, you'd have to, even preparing a meal and cleaning the house 100 years ago was an incredibly physically demanding task. So we didn't exercise back then. We were fit naturally. And our
Mhm.
bodies have developed over time to actually accept that and yearn for it and use it in order to balance the neurochemical makeup inside ourselves, which then also affects our brain. And in the modern world, we don't have to do any of those things. On any given day, we can order food in. We can have up to maybe 5, 6, 7,000 calories in our refrigerator just sitting there. We sit in front of a screen and we don't have to literally walk anywhere. We can just take Uber, taxis, drive, you name it.
Mhm.
And that feels to us okay because life hasn't really got easier for us. It's still difficult, but it's
Mhm.
difficult mentally and psychologically. So we deal with those stresses at a mental and psychological level, and we don't stress our bodies physically. And what usually happens is that our bodies at some point begin to break down
Mhm.
materially. And that breaking down affects our internal homeostatic balance. It affects our energy. It affects the emotional regulation we can apply. It affects the way our brain can actually function. It affects cognition itself. So that's the first thing which we'll start with as a sort of introduction to it. That's why it's so difficult sometimes to understand why we don't get fit.
Uh, for the people, the most of the population today, typically as adults, we usually will start working a fitness program into our lifestyle. But as things, like you said, more and more screens, younger and younger, are kids even losing that exposure to play and outdoor movement to the point, are they needing to incorporate a focused fitness plan into their lifestyle at an earlier age than ever before?
Yes, yes. I mean, absolutely. I mean, in a nutshell, you presented both a problem, which is a real problem coming up, and a
Mhm.
potential solution. Now, the problem is, if we look at the World Health Organization figures for 2050, which is just a quarter of a century from now, they project that unless things change, half the world's population, period, is going to be overweight or seriously obese, which is staggering. And what we're seeing here is not just developed countries where you can say, well, we have an easier lifestyle. It's also developing countries because
Mm,
we have this homogenization of our approach to food, and also our approach to labor. Where constantly we're doing fewer and fewer physically demanding things because inevitably life becomes more modern, and at the same time our foods become more calorifically dense,
mhm,
so because they're processed and also easier to access. This is the other thing. We don't really have to work for them. You know,
mhm,
when I was growing up 35 years ago, when I was younger, well, yeah, 40 years ago, if you had to make a meal, you'd need about an hour and fresh ingredients, and you'd actually have to prepare it. And today, you just, make a call
mhm.
or go on your laptop, and 15 minutes later, food arrives.
Yeah,
It's like magic, right?
yeah,
But here's the thing. The same ingredients aren't being used, obviously. The same labor isn't being produced. And the effect that food has on us is not quite the same as it was
yeah.
as recently as 40 years ago. This is what's changed in my own lifetime.
Mhm. Now, you mentioned a little bit ago that most people want to be fit, but how many people are willing to do something about it? And how do you make them understand how important it is to do something about it?
Okay, so I mean that's a great question, right? And you bring up again so many easy questions, really complex problems. So let's unpack them first of all.
Okay.
If we use just pure sheer logic and we say to anybody, do you want to be fitter? Do you want to lose a little bit of weight? Don't have to be super slim. Do you want to feel better in your body? Do you want to feel that you're in control of your life? 1000%, they'll tell you yes. It doesn't matter who you talk to, logically, they will agree to that.
Mhm,
Then we get to the actual figures. How many people are doing it and why are they not doing it, which is the more important thing. When we get near Christmas, and near Christmas, what usually happens, we all more or less have at least a week or at least 3, 4, 5 days at home with our friends. We're relaxed, we're chilled, nice food, feel warm. And what do we do then? We think, okay, I need to get fitter, I need to get better. And the next thing we do usually is we buy something in terms of a course or fitness equipment or gym membership or whatever. We spend every year almost $1 billion in fitness courses, equipment, and gym memberships. So the willingness is there, the motivation is there. But where is the motivation from? It is there when we're at home, when we're relaxed, when we're thinking about the future, when we're projecting into that future the way we feel at that moment because we're chilled.
Mm-hmm.
Come January, the weather's cold, the traffic is bad, it's raining outside, life is beginning to hit us because we have to pay bills and we have to run projects at work, whatever it is, all the stresses come at us. And these are the things we know about. There's also the things we're not prepared for, which land on top of that. So by the time we get to January, we begin to see, end of January, we begin to see some attrition. By the time we get to mid-February, the figures of gym goers had dropped by 35 to 40%. By mid-March, we're down to 65%. So 6.5 people out of every 10 who start out drop out. And the reason for that, it's not because they haven't got the willpower. They do. It's not because they haven't got the motivation. They definitely have it. They're putting time and money to begin with. They start off with a lot of motivation. They understand what they have to do. And it's not that they don't have discipline. Motivation is there. Let's examine that before I pick up the other two. Now, what is motivation? From a neurochemical perspective, from neuroscientific perspective, motivation is a sensation of discomfort with your current situation and a willingness to do something to go somewhere else where you will feel better about yourself.
Okay.
And when I say somewhere else, you don't have to physically move, but you have to take some kind of action. So if you're really thirsty and hungry, what are you going to do? You can bear it for an hour, maybe two, maybe three, but 3 hours, and you get really thirsty, really hungry, you're going to reach out some food and you're going to want something to drink. So you're highly motivated to take action to solve that particular need.
Mm-hmm.
Same with fitness. We don't feel good about ourselves. We understand all these things. We know we need to get better and we take action to do so. So motivation is there, it's 100%, but motivation is a little bit fickle sometimes. If you wake up at a different time of the day, you may not be as motivated because it's neurochemically driven. So in order to keep going, what do you need? You need willpower and you need discipline. And these are two things we don't completely understand. We say usually in a judgmental way, you're weak, you don't have the willpower to do something, or no, you have no discipline. And I don't subscribe to that. Willpower is a process. It's knowing what to do.
Ah.
So if you say to yourself, okay, I need to get fitter, don't put it out there in some sort of gray blob. Describe exactly what you need to do for yourself and why. Do you need to lose weight? How much? How much do you need to lose? By when? And what do you need to do in order to do that? Do you need to get stronger? Sure. What does that actually mean? Are you going to start lifting, I don't know, a ton of weight? Or do you just want to be able to lift your grandchild or your son? Or you want to be able to play with your kids? These are the things which need definition. And the moment we define them, the specific goals, then we can actually break it down into actions that will lead us to those goals. So that's our plan, that's a process. If we know that, that's our willpower, because if you know what you have to do and you understand why, then it's easy to do it, right? Because you know what it is to do. If you don't know, every time you go to the gym, you think, I need to do something, you're already tired. Life itself is draining. Now you have to go to the gym, you have to put up with whatever perception or judgment you think is being applied to you, whatever perception of envy you apply to yourself in terms of others. And then you have to say, oh, what do I need to do? And you don't have the knowledge. And that kills you. It makes you feel bad. It makes you feel inadequate. It makes you feel incapable. So what do? Well, after about 2, 3 weeks, you drop out because it's the easiest thing to do. So that's willpower. Willpower is the process. If you break it down and understand what it is you have to do and why, then it becomes easier. And now we talk about discipline. And what is discipline? Discipline is the structure around that process. If you say to yourself, okay, I need to go to the gym, you understand why, you have understood what to do, and now you need to work out the when. And we say, well, I'm going to go to the gym Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And on those days, my gym bag is packed, everything is ready, I just need to pick it up and go. or maybe you arrange with a buddy to go there, or maybe you go there and do a team sport, whatever it is. That structure keeps you doing it
Hmm.
when you don't always feel like doing it. And because it keeps you doing it, well, there's your discipline. Because,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, that's all it is. So really, discipline is putting a structure in place that allows a process to be repeated.
Yeah.
And willpower is the process itself, which needs to be broken down and understood. You need to understand what to do and why you're doing it.
Another way might be to look at it as have a process and manage your expectations. Know what you're going to expect out of yourself and your goals, like you're saying. I really like that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, your summary is 100% brilliant because that's exactly right.
So, someone then, like you're saying, that says, okay, yes, I'm ready. So, they need to get a process into place. They need to start learning what they need to be doing. What do you advise them? How do you coach them into studying the right things so they can get that practice and discipline?
Okay, so let's say if you understand what it is you want to do for yourself, and it has
Mhm.
to be for you, right? It has to be emotionally motivated. So
Okay.
you want to lose weight for specific reasons. You want to get stronger, again, for specific reasons. And then you say, okay, what is it going to look like? It's going to look like this. Okay, and then what do I have to do in order for that to happen? I have to do these things. And these things can be, if you need to lift weights, you need to understand what kind of weight should you start
Yeah.
with? And then how do you gradually become uh, stronger by increasing the weights or increasing the repetition or increasing the number of times you go to the gym, whatever it is you have to do to reach that goal. And it has to be, and I can't stress this enough, it has to be realistic and it has to be incremental. We are not
Yeah.
machines.
Yes.
We can't keep on every day, improving 10%. I had this thing, with a friend about 3 years ago, and I said, I put this test for myself, and I'm going to, it's an aside now. Every year, I apply a protocol, which is a tiny exercise which I'll perform every day of the year. And 3 years ago, I would start the day by doing 100 push ups, which sounds like a lot, right? Now, I can normally do between 40 and 50. And I thought, I'll do two lots of 50. Or if not two lots of 50, one lot of 50, and then two 20s and a 10. And if I can't do that, I'll do five 20s, whatever it is. I'm going to do 100 push ups. And I
Okay.
did it every day. So I told him this and he got really excited and he could only do about 10. So he told me, I can get to 50. And I said, well, if you can only do 10, it's difficult. He said, no, no, no problem. Give me a month. And I said, it's impossible to do it in a month. He goes, no, 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 it's okay. Every day I'll increase it by two or three. By the end of the month, I'll be at 50. And it sounds reasonable, except we're not machines, right? This is the thing. We need to
Yeah.
be kind to ourselves. We can't solely go from 10 to 12 and you think, okay, the next week I'm going to be 15, the week after I'm going to be 20, because the body doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And if we force the body to work that way, it's going to break down and actually we're going to get either injured or our muscles are going to become de-strengthened and inflamed. They're going to hurt and we're going to be doing less. So this is the thing I always stress. You set goals, they have to be realistic, they have to be incremental, and throughout the journey, you really need to be kind to yourself, which is really, really difficult.
That's very good advice for sure. You were talking about the longevity of it because you want to be able to sustain that. Any
Yes.
tips on ensuring that beyond what you just shared?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how do we sustain something? In order to sustain it, it has to be, from my perspective, lifelong, right? You need to always be able to do something. And that something is going to vary because the condition you're in is going to vary. Your circumstances are going to vary. If we are stressed, we now know testosterone in the body, especially in males, begins to drop and muscle begins to break down, which means we become disstrengthened and weaker because we have a stressful lifestyle. And giving the advice of, hey, you just need to reduce stress in your life, that's not easy at all.
No.
Okay, because life is crazy stressful.
Yes.
So we have to take all these things on board and within the matrix of being kind to ourselves, we have to say, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. Being able to move my body and feeling happy doing it. And that's going to change in different parts of the year, different parts of your life, different times of perhaps um, the things that you experience, because you're going to be different in that context. You're going to be neurochemically different, different feelings, different thoughts, different dreams. They're going to be physiologically different because the neurochemicals in the body affect immediately, impact upon the hormones that the body secretes, which then are hormonal profile changes, which means that their major organs are in a different phase or state because of that. So we need to understand that we're always different. What's the same is our emotions, how we feel about it.
Mm.
So if you say, I get out in the morning and I do this, whatever this is, and it makes me happy by moving your body, going for a walk, doing some exercise, just jumping around, playing with your kids, whatever it is. If it makes you happy, then you can do it again and again because
Yeah.
being happy is a good feeling.
Yeah.
And that's the sustaining stroke sustainable aspect of fitness. If you don't make it like that,
Uh-huh.
then all you're doing is you're pushing a big load up this big hill, and at some point you're going to get tired and stop. And
Yeah.
then what's going to happen? You're going to go all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you're reminding us to be compassionate with ourselves. I know as someone that is likes to be driven, I also have to realize there's a point where you have to go, go, go is okay to a certain extent. And then you have to be like, okay, but to keep go, 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 you have to relax and give yourself a break so you can do it again later. And I feel like that's really important. But it also brings me to the point where a lot of people will start, they will go, 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 and they'll either get burnout or life will happen and they will stop. What's your advice for getting back on that horse?
Okay, that's excellent because we all experience things like that. This is what I'll say, life is always going to be hard. We know that. And if we know that life is going to be hard, and we know that sometimes things are going to happen which are entirely unexpected, and they're going to throw a curveball at us and completely put us off our stride, and we have to sort of stop what we're doing in order to deal with them. If we know that, then being smart, because we're all smart, we need to have contingency plans for our fitness. So if I prioritize my fitness, and there are days, bear in mind, I've been training every single day all my life, pretty much, right, since 13. So it's over 47 years on this. And there are days when my life is so hectic, so crazy, that I simply haven't got time to exercise at all, like zero. And I still exercise. And why do I exercise? Because on those days, and I know in advance when those days are going to happen, right? Because it's my life. I sort of plan it. I know that this day is going to be crazy. I'm going to be traveling a lot. I'm going to be meeting a lot of people. I know that whatever time segments I have, there's going to be some slippage. And also, I'm going to be tired from all that activity.
Mhm.
So then, do I need, and I have a home gym. So for me, it's easy to exercise.
Yes.
Will I be able to do it? No, I won't, right? Because I just won't be able to do it that day. But still, what do? I have a fallback plan. On that day, I will do something very specific. I might do 10 pull-ups, and that's all I've done all day. I might do 50 push-ups. I might do 50 squats. And that's my gain that day. That's my win. I actually
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like nothing, right? Because it takes, from my perspective, these things take less than a minute. And you say, okay, you haven't even exercised for a minute, but this is what science tells us. You move your body for a minute, that's 60 seconds. The neurochemical changes in your bloodstream are identical to those that you would experience if you've been exercising for an hour. The body can't differentiate between a minute and an hour. Movement is movement.
Hmm.
So the impact that those neurochemical changes have on your internal organs, on your internal health, is going to be almost the same. Not quite, because some other things come in, but it's going to be positive. Let's look at this. Let's point it like that. Let's present it like that. And the impact it's going to have on your brain health, your mental health, is also going to be positive. So that's a win that day. You haven't missed out. Sure, you didn't do your hour-long exercise, whatever it's going to be, but you actually haven't not done anything. You've done something. And
Mhm.
that's great. And it allows you to face the day with a win, regardless of how the day has actually gone. And that's really, really good from a mental perspective. It's also good from a psychological perspective, and obviously from a physical perspective.
Very much so. I do think it's important to highlight too how important rest is for those people that have a hard time with getting sick and realizing they're going to miss their workout, or maybe they finally gotten into that pattern and they get really bummed because they broke something, they got sick, or they're forced to rest and recover. please back up how important it is to let your body
Yes.
heal.
Absolutely. Okay, let's examine that because it is hugely important, and thank you for bringing it up. Okay, if we look at fitness, this is the four things which we need. We need obviously exercise of some kind. We need movement. We need nutrition, good nutrition, because that's actually the fuel that not just powers us, but also helps us build up our body. Then we need recovery. That's the third thing. If our sleep isn't right, if our recovery time isn't right, then our body begins to break down. It doesn't matter how good our nutrition is, it doesn't matter how good our exercise regime is. Without adequate rest, we will definitely break down. And the fourth thing which we need, which is always a surprise to people, is we need to socialize. With we need meaningful social connections. We don't need to be party animals. I always stress that.
Yes.
But we do need to have meaningful social connections. Why? Because again, neuroscience shows that they're good for our mental health. And what's good for our mental health balances our internal system, and it's good for our body. We experience less stress, less inflammation, less chronic inflammation, fewer diseases because our immune system is not suppressed. So we actually have better health outcomes. So to get back to your original point, rest is really important. If there's a day when you had a hectic week, and remember, if you have a hectic week dealing with a mental problem, you're burning the same amount, the same kind of fuel that if you're lifting weights. Right? The muscles in the brain burn ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. Same fuel. So if you're having a really stressful week, just on that, and there are other elements in place, right? Just on that, you're going to have less energy to exercise naturally. You're going to be a little bit burnt out, a little bit stressed out. You need to rest. So if we just examine just that aspect, okay, and if you have a stressful week, there's cortisol levels which affect the way the body uses energy. There are testosterone reduction in the bloodstream, which begins to break down muscle tissue. There's a lot of other things happening. But let's just focus on the ATP side, on the energy side. So if you had a stressful week, if you don't take adequate time to recover physically, you're not going to be able to function.
Yes.
So if you say to yourself, and I totally get the anxiety that comes in if you don't exercise and you're used to exercising. You feel your muscles are getting weaker, your body's breaking down, you're letting yourself down, you have no willpower, you have no discipline. I totally get it because I have the same voice in my head, always. And this is what I tell myself. If I had a coach coaching me, what would he say to me in that point in time? He'd say, hey, that week which you had, that day which you had, is no way conducive to performing well physically. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a breath here, take a breath here, take a step back, do a little bit of meditation, perhaps do a little bit of thinking, listen to some music, unwind, get yourself down to a stable baseline again, and next day let's tackle this in a fresh way, or next week. That's what the coach would say because he'd be responsible for my performance.
Yeah.
He'd know that if I'm not doing okay mentally, physically I'm liable to break down. I'm going to get injured, I'm going to get sick, I'm going to push myself. Even if I don't get injured physically, I'm pushing my body so hard that my immune system begins to then become depressed and suppressed,
Yes.
and I'm liable to get ill further down the line.
Yeah.
So a good coach would know that. He'd protect me.
Yeah.
And we don't do that for ourselves, right? So we need to do that.
Yes.
That's where the kindness comes in.
I think one of the voices inside of my head is always, don't run on a broken leg. I mean, you're not going to get better running on a broken leg. So you've got to stop, heal up, and then come back strong later. You mentioned one other thing I'd like to touch on before we close. I think it's very important, especially when you're training, you've got to feed your body good fuel. So touch on a little bit about the nutrition and how that looks for somebody that's wanting a better lifestyle and longevity and a great workout.
Okay, let's touch upon this. Now, this is a massive can of worms, right? Because why? Depending where you are regionally, some things are available, some things are not. Your socioeconomic status in this plays a role because, if you want if you want better nutrition, it's a little bit more expensive. We get into sometimes the vegan carnivore debate. All those things come up, and I'm going to bypass all of these.
Okay.
This is what I will say. Work out what works for you best. Find out what foods agree with you. try to avoid as much as you can highly processed foods.
Hmm.
Try to avoid as much as you can high sugar content. And again, also try to avoid as much as you can high salt content. Now, the food industry usually puts a lot of salt and sugar into processed food because that activates our taste buds, gives us a dopamine spike, and makes us like that food more and more.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like a Big Mac? Okay, I grew up,
Yeah.
in Australia. It used to be a treat, right? Big Mac and thick shake every weekend.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I know. And these days we know, right,
Yeah.
that these things are bad for us. And it doesn't mean we have to deprive ourselves. You still love it once a week, twice a month, whatever works. If it works for you, do it. But at the same time, focus on what else you can fix in nutrition that will reduce the inflammation in your body that's caused by excess sugar and highly processed food and excess salt. And if you do those things, you'll know instantly because you'll start to feel better. Your performance will be better. You'll be more alert. You stop going from this kind of roller coaster of energy spikes and energy sort of troughs that most people hit when they sort of have a lot of processed food in their diet. And within that, try to introduce as much as you can fruit, vegetables, because they're good for us, and you'll find that also there's a period where you recalibrate your taste buds
Yeah.
because of that. And that's an amazing thing because the flavors will start to come out in the food.
And I'm sure folks can find even more in your book, Built to Last. Where can they go to get a copy now and learn more about you?
Well, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it in any bookshop where books are sold. You can order it online from pretty much any online retailer. If you want to support your local community, I'm very big on this. If you go to bookshop.org, then you order it online, you pick it up at your local bookshop. They also get a cut of this, and it helps local bookshops, which are very good in the community.
Very good. I like that little tidbit of knowledge. Very good. Thank you so much. Come back anytime. Before we close, tell me what is your favorite workout to do? Are you a runner or do you like something else?
I it really depends on the day.
Okay.
Sometimes I just feel like running because, if you run, it's a sense of freedom in your body, all your worries go behind. And usually I mentalize all my stress kind of
Yeah.
streaming off me when I run.
Yeah.
So it depends on the kind of day I have. Some days I just need to, especially as I'm getting older, I'm conscious of the fact that I'm fighting my body's natural propensity to lose muscle mass.
Ah.
And I sort of, on some days, I'll just do, weights maybe for an hour, doing different things in a dynamic way so that I can maintain the muscle mass I have as I age, which is the important thing for me right now.
What's one of your favorite ways to kick back and relax?
I'm a gamer. I play video games.
Okay.
So I'm on PlayStation, doing Uncharted sometimes. So it's pretty cool.
Very good. Thank you so much. Come back anytime.
Thank you for this. I really enjoyed this, and I hope it helps your listeners.
Yes, thanks so much. You can find out more and link over to watch or listen to your preferred platform on your preferred platform from runitstudios.com. Thank you.